Now, at the House of Digital, what we like to do is we like to help you envision, design, create, build new digital experiences to help you inspire your customers and to strengthen your brand. Now, to inspire your customer, you can do it in a lot of ways. And one of these ways to do it is by using digital signage. And that's why we also create and distribute CMSs, signage platforms. And tonight I'm particularly proud that I can show you one of our newest additions. It's called StratosMedia. And I think it's a big thing. I think it's unlike anything you've ever seen. I know it's a bold claim to make, but I have 15 minutes to make it so, to prove it to you. So let's dive in. First of all, let's put this into a perspective, into a market perspective. What do we know about the future? We live in very interesting times. There's a lot of things going on. I'm an IT guy. I'm not a spokesman, speaker. And there's all kinds of new technologies coming our way. It's very interesting, but it's also very volatile because we don't know which one of these is going to survive in the long run. At the same rate, new things come up, other things disappear. So it's hard to know which one is going to survive. Now, but what we do know is that digitization has become a fundamental part of who we are and what we do. There's no way around that anymore. It's like air and water. We need it just to survive. I don't think this will ever turn back again. Now, if you look at digital signage, that's a whole other level. In signage, traditionally, what you need is stability. You want to work on proven technology. You need something that just works. You don't want people running around to all your stores and fiddling around with all the buttons. No, it has to work. It has to be scalable. It has to be durable. So how do you make a marriage between the ever-changing environment in which we live and a stable underground to put your CMS on? Well, in order to do that, you actually need to redefine the definition of digital signage. Who knows if tomorrow, Jan mentioned it, who knows if tomorrow there's going to be screens? Maybe there won't be any screens. But what we do know is that everyone will still have the need to put his content somewhere. You want to distribute whatever you have to tell to your customers, to your employees, to everyone in the world. And you want to do this in a very smart and quick way and cheap way, if possible. So that's why I'm introducing StratosMedia, and 15 minutes is hardly enough to cover it all, but I've highlighted 3 of the main things within Stratos that really make it stand out of the crowd. The first one is it's very easy to use. It has an interface that can be modified and adapted according to the person who is working with. So if you are a very hardcore graphics guy and you're used to working with all these cool tools, you can find like a Photoshop-alike experience within the Stratos Cloud environment. And it even has features that are not found within a Photoshop. Now, if you're a regular user, you can also work with the system. We can tailor it to match, to do exactly whatever it is you want to do with it. So, and this simple experience is really all around the place, because we notice that a lot of customers, more and more, they don't see the external signage system as a system they have. No, they want to get into it. They want to work with it. And in order to be able to do that, you have to make it easy. Now, the thing is, and that's a cool thing about Stratos, is that the experience you have actually changes according to the device you use to go into the Stratos system. So the things you do on your smartphone and on your laptop are completely different, because if you're in the store and you have your smartphone, you may want to just swipe up an image and show it on the screen. Whereas if you are behind your computer, you want to make your planning, you want to do everything, you want to prepare yourself for whatever content it is you want to play on the screen later on. A second part is modularity. I just told you, and everyone else told you, it's changing times. Everything changes, everything evolves, and we don't know for sure what's going to be there in 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, God knows even in 2 years. So it would be a bad thing if you had to redesign your entire software. That's not the case here, because it's actually the Stratos environment is composed out of all little building blocks, and all together they make the Stratos environment. So I'm going to give you a couple of these modules. It's not the complete list, of course, but it's focused on digital signage. First one, images, videos, the classics, everyone knows them. These are content items that everyone uses, and they are they are used a lot nowadays, and they are very strong, but they are very stupid. They are not interactive, they do not link to anything. A video is just a video, it cannot retrieve data. Of course, there is an option to retrieve data. You can use an RSS feed. You can use any source on the internet. Social media has become a part of it. YouTube streaming, live streaming, all of these things have become a standard within the Stratos environment. Of course, it's also HTML5 compatible, and a cool thing here is that actually you can use the Stratos environment without even having screens. So it's already preparing for a future without those screens. The reason you can do that is there's a simple check. You check it, and when you do that, the content is actually pushed to any other device you want. So it's not necessarily a screen which is the endpoint. It can also be a mailing, it can be a website, it can be your application. So this saves a lot of money and a lot of time because you can reuse the content that you made for the screens, if you have them, and just distribute them onto everything else. There's also a very neat API builder. Again, this is to push the simplicity towards an end user, because nowadays if you have a data source and you want to connect to it, yeah, you need a lot of power, you need IT people like me, because it's hard. It's not something everyone can do. Now the API builder does that for you. So it's a simple wizard that guides you, where's your data source, what's the content you want to pull out of it. You can push it to your editor and then to your screen, and automatically as soon as the source changes, the screen content changes along with it. Because it's built on Google technology and Google strength, it's also fully compatible with the Google APIs and with the Google Suite. A very practical example of that is, say you have someone in a store and you want him to be able to change the contents on the screen, but you don't want to give him access to the Stratos environment. What you can then do is you just give him access to a Google Sheet or to a Google Drive. He uploads his content, he changes his text, and automatically the screen adapts. So you have made a change without even being in the Stratos environment. And the 3 dots, yeah, they represent the future. We don't know what it's going to be like, but we can add any module. So as soon as a new technology gets really adopted in the market, sounds interesting and promising, we can make another module and add it to the list. The Stratos comes packed with features that you would normally find in any other signage platform. And the reason for that is simple. It's because we want to set a new standard. I still remember long ago, and I didn't even have gray hairs back then, it's a very long time ago, when we tried to connect something that was shown on a signage screen to an RSS feed online. Now it sounds very easy to do, it's basic signage, but back then, we spent a lot of hours, days to do that. And it was a glorious day because we got it to work, so finally we made it. Then it was exceptional, now it is a standard. So we want to redefine that standard by adding new tools by default in an environment, and these tools are mainly to gather data, to capture data, because you have a narrow casting system and we're going to convert it into a narrow catching system. And having the output and the input closely together in an easy to manage environment makes it very, very strong. Because in the end, and it was mentioned before, if you have a lot of data, that's cool, but if you don't do anything with it, it's pointless, it's useless. So let me give you 4 practical examples of how can data be captured by default within the Stratos environment. First one is a classic, it's audience behavior. You know, it's a thing the European Commission isn't a very big fan of today, but that will change eventually, we're sure. It's a thing where cameras can look in the environment, know who you are, what you do, how old you are, etc., counts stuff. It gives you tremendous amounts of useful data to manage. And if you can put this back into your system, you can really create a smart signage solution. Now, because we cannot do it in Europe today in the field, it doesn't mean that you don't have to start playing around with it. It gives you the time to practice in the lab, and as soon as the law changes, we can just push it out to the stores, and then you have what you need, you know what you're looking for, and it's just scaling up. That's all you have to do. A second one, and this is a very, very interesting one, is the LTE or Wi-Fi capturing. So what we do is we place a very cheap device with 2 antennae, one inside of the store and one outside of the store, and it just sniffs around and finds all the devices, and everyone has a smartphone or a laptop or whatever. It can know which device is passing by. It doesn't know who you are, so it's completely anonymous, but it does know it's you. It does know which device it is. So if you come back tomorrow, it knows, yesterday you were here as well. This gives you a lot of data that can be used outside of signage, but also within the signage. Because if you have, for example, a window screen, and you change the content on the screen, and you see a difference in pattern, you know that you're doing good or doing not so good. So you can count people, you can know how long they stay in front of the store, you can know how many people go inside, etc., etc. It's a very cool stuff to play around with. The third one is the campaign manager, and this is another level. It's actually built, it's not exclusively built, but it's actually built for people with a vast network of screens. And you are lazy and you want to manage it in a very easy way. Because in this case, the system does it for you. You just have to program it in advance, and you set up different variables, and according to the variables, the screen will know what to do. For example, tomorrow it's rainy, so I'm gonna show umbrellas today because tomorrow it's gonna be rainy. These variables, for example, the weather, the temperature, geolocation, there can also be custom variables because sometimes customers have their own wishes. They can be added to the system. And a cool add-on for the campaign manager is the fleet manager. Say you have buses or cabs or Uber drivers, whatever, and they have little screens in it. Well, the screen knows where it is, and because of the campaign manager, you can show content specifically when this vehicle enters a specific area. So if you want to sell publicity and someone drives into your street, you can show your discounts. And finally, the last one is the beacon technology. I know everyone has heard of it. Still in the field, you don't see it a lot. It's quite rare to see it. Now, the players we use, they are based on Chrome OS and Chrome boxes. And by default, they are also a Bluetooth beacon. You don't have to use it. It's already there if you want to, but you don't have to use it. On the other side, in the software, there's also an option to check, okay, if someone enters my beacon range, I want to send this message. By default, it is there. So that means that every player we install within this system is a Bluetooth beacon. So even if you start out without beacon technology, you can later on just click the checkbox and you're up and running, and everyone that enters your store with your app can get a push message from within the beacon broadcast system. So I was off on a very bad start, but I made up during the day. I hope that you are a little bit convinced about the power of Stratos. This is just the tip of the iceberg. It can do a lot more. And if you're interested, you can come to me later on or afterwards, we'll see. But that's it for now. Time for drinks and chatter. Thank you very much.